All right. So with mine, I've got a couple tech driven items that we'll go over, and then the back end is going to be more like hands-on opportunities for students. So what I really did here was I kind of focused on like fourth grade students, and I have a animal habitat lesson. And so as you can see here, this is the teacher view of my Google Classroom. So with this assignment, this is how I am delivering it to students, and they're going to be able to go through each of these pieces. The first one is a habitat lesson. So this would actually be guided by me as the teacher, right? And I did grab from Canva, and if you're not aware of this, Canva has some really great resources that you can search out that other people have made, so you can use those to your advantage. It's kind of like Teachers Pay Teachers, where you can grab these really great things that others have made and kind of make them their own. But I do have to give credit here to Self Creatives who put this together. So you could always go and check out this PowerPoint, this Canva slideshow, I should say, if you're interested. But this covers exploring different habitats for animals. So if you just kind of going through, as what you would do with the student is basically we need to start by, right, we're going to explain habitat. What does that mean? We're going to get into the types of habitats with students. So you've got a variety of things here that show, and this is actually going to be a connection into the resource that I'm going to give the students, which I'll show next. But so here we're just kind of introducing them to the concept of habitats and what types there are. Then it dives into each one individually to give them a little bit more context of what that means. What type of animals might you find in these different areas? But it introduces them to the different habitats, because the end goal, what we're going to actually have the students do, is going to be able be creating a animal diorama around a habitat that they choose. So this is a part where, as the teacher, you're taking them through and you're explaining these things to them, taking questions, having maybe some probing questions. This by no means is like a fully realized lesson necessarily. You could make this your own and have it fit to your students, but this at least gives us a picture of what we're aiming towards with this habitat lesson. And so just creating understanding around habitats, and raising their knowledge on what this means. Once you get through that part, right, your lesson with the students, you're going to actually direct them to the habitat research source. So this is from National Geographic, and I just tagged this into our little animal habitats unit on Google Classroom. And in this area, what's nice is we're basically going to go from the guided information about habitats with the Canva lesson into them being able to explore these different things through the National Geographic website. So, from here, it's kind of like they get to now explore these different ones and choose which ones are of the greatest interest to them personally. So if they want to look through here and they're like, oh, I really like rainforest, I can click on that. And I got a couple things going on with each one. There's some images here that they could go through, which I think gives them some good visual representation of that habitat. What kind of animals might be found there? Different forestry, trees, right? If you're more the type that's going to go for the aquatic ones, there's like freshwater habitats and ocean habitats as well. But if you go down a little bit, right, we've got our images there, and then we've got some explanation and some various categories here too about a variety of different things that are relative to that habitat. So the students can go through these, and this would be a little bit of a part of their research that they're going through. And so they're looking through here. You've got a video down at the bottom that you can also watch, but this will get them looking at the different habitats, and ultimately, right, they're going to make a selection on what habitat they want to do their animal diorama around. So that's the lesson, then the resource given to them by the teacher. And then I also wanted to include a little bit here on the AI side. Like, what is a way that we can have students use AI where we deliver a tool to them and they can use it to their advantage and pair it with the source that I give them. So I've got this National Geographic, but if we go to the Magic School AI tool help, we could actually have them click on this, and I'll just swap over to the student version here. If they click on this, we're going to be able to join a room. So I'm going to use Jeremy. Jeremy's going to be my student for this. And we'll have Jeremy join the room. And then as we've shown you in other our Magic School AI videos, they're going to be able to join these rooms with just their name and then be able to utilize these tools. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to have another avenue where they could get some informational texts from. Obviously, you saw the National Geographic one, and there's plenty of other resources you could use for that. But what if we had them go into the informational text card? And here we said, okay, and this is probably going to take a little bit of guiding by the teacher, just to be upfront about it, because especially, when you're just introducing this to them, you might have to say, okay, I want everybody to try out the AI tool, and you're going to choose one page and you're going to put in the topic. So you might even have to guide them in what they write for their prompt to get started. So you could say, I want you to put in, I'm going to do a project on an animal diorama on the on rainforest habitats. Can you give me some information on this? Okay, and we'll just generate this and see what it comes up with. Cool. Okay, so what we've got here is, what is a rainforest, right? So it starts out, what is a rainforest? Gives them some information. Then we've got some layers of the rainforest. This one kind of takes them through what are the different layers, which is nice because they could actually refer back to the National Geographic site and look at some of the various pictures to put some visuals or to visualize what does that look like, specifically like the forest floor, the canopy, stuff like that. I think that's really helpful and explains it. And then you get into what type of animals would be in there, right? So then when they are creating their animal diorama, they at least have a starting point for, well, what animals can I find there? Again, pairing it with the pictures and making sense of all this. Then it does a little bit more of the importance of rainforests. When I tested this out before and I mentioned the diorama, it actually gave me suggestions for my diorama too. For this, because it didn't, maybe I'll just put in, do you have any tips on starting my diorama? Okay, cool. So we've got a bunch of stuff here. Let's see what it says. So we got choose your materials, right? Use a sturdy base like a shoebox, cardboard, or a wooden board. Consider painting or using colored paper for the background to create a sky or forest scene. Then plan your layout. So layers. This is cool because, as you can see here, this actually refers back to the layers that they mentioned when I was going through the informative part. And so it's referencing back to that so that I know that because of those different features of the rainforest, as a student, I should be thinking about how can I put that in, or that I should include those things into my diorama. It does a little recommendation here on sketch a rough layout of that, thinking about placement of things, and then how do I start, right? Okay, so it recommends my next step, create the forest floor first. Then number 4, put in the understory and the canopy. And then add in animals and plants that we would find either in the pictures or, right, going back to either this section in our information text, or going back to the National Geographic site and finding what animals could I put in there. And, maybe they use like little animal figures. Maybe you've got something like that. Depending on what kind of resources you have available to, maybe once they have everything in for their habitat, maybe they draw the animals in on the background, or whatever you want to do there, is totally up to you. But this at least walks them through what are some ways to approach this. Okay. Now, another thing we've got is our actual assignment itself. And that is the last thing in our Google Classroom area. That's the animal diorama assignment, which I went to Generation Genius and I pulled this actual lesson, which goes through the instructions. So you will have to kind of determine with something like this, right? What is your pacing going to be? When you're going to introduce certain things? Maybe you go through this first, but if this is what you actually give the students as their assignment, they can understand the assignment as you take them through it, and then still utilize the Magic School help to remember the best way to approach it, the steps to take to get that assignment completed. So to finish this up, add the animals and plants, include some interesting details. Maybe you even have them write a little like 1 or 2 paragraph informational thing that they would present on. Maybe they put their diorama in front of everybody and they talk about it. Or you could even do kind of like a habitat gallery where you have, all the students have their habitats around the room, and the informational text, written or typed, could be set next to that habitat, and they could, stand by their habitat, or maybe it's just there for everybody to kind of walk around and see. So a lot of flexibility with this. But I think ultimately this is one way that you could approach having, starting with your tech style instructions, the presentation, and even using AI, all towards the ultimate goal of having students create a hands-on animal diorama that could then be part of a bigger gallery with the students, and they could all appreciate each other's work and read about the different habitats and why they chose them. And that way you've got a good mix of both tech and non-tech complementing each other to create something really cool for your students.
So yeah, I really like your idea of the gallery walk part, with your 4th grade students, standing next to their diorama. I picture it like on a series of tables and stuff. Like, but what if you took like the 3rd graders then, and they went and they did the little walk around and they stopped at the different tables to learn a little bit about the habitat. But mostly, if you're that 4th grade teacher, it's to listen to your students explain their learning to a different audience of people, right? To people who 1 grade less than them, but still pretty much they have to be able to explain it at that level, right? Which then really could kind of drive that home. And then if you're that 4th grade teacher, you're prepping the kids in 3rd grade to take that and do that activity as 4th graders the next year, or 2nd graders or 1st graders or whatever it happened to be, right? I think that would be a really neat way to tie that all together too.
That's what I was just thinking is, exactly, where you have all those students. If you do 3rd grade, they come in, they get to be part of the animal habitat gallery, and then also look forward to doing that next year as well. So I think that's really fun to make some of those connections too. So
right, and I think it'd be meaningful to those 4th graders to make it for that other audience. Like, they're going to put more work into it to making something really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.